Okay, so I just finished watching Legend of the Sea Devils, and it was okay at best. I'm gonna say that now, and I'm gonna get into my reasons, and I'm gonna have to talk about spoilers in order to talk about this. So you have been warned. So anyway, in three, two, one. So the first thing that I noticed about this episode, this special, although calling it a special is a bit of a stretch because it's the same length as a regular episode. So yeah, and part of me wonders if this was originally supposed to be part of series 13 because it does literally just feel like a regular episode for the most part. And I will say with this as well, though the one major thing I noticed out of the gate was, God, this feels like it has no next to no budget to it. It honestly does. The CGI looks absolutely abysmal in most places. The ship, the one fairly decent bit of CGI is the ship, which I'm assuming is CGI. Everything else, though, it just looks really bad. Like at the start of the episode, we have some of the worst looking uh, CGI cracks happening in a statue that I've ever seen, and I don't know why, but it looks like they've CGI'd over bits of the Sea Devil mask to give it more expressions because the main Sea Devil has an animatronic head, and the heads themselves they look really good. They do look really good. The only thing I'll say about it, and they've actually blanked them out in this picture here, is the eyes do make it look a bit cartoony, a bit goofy, and it's something I've mentioned before. I think if the eyes, if they weren't so, I don't know, if they were slightly yellow, like the original, just something like that. And also, our main Sea Devil, is the only one who ever talks, and the talking in it isn't bad. It still has a bit of that, sort of this type of voice. But the only problem is that the mouth doesn't really move properly. Yeah, the mouth doesn't really move properly, and the other Sea Devils kind of have. There's a few shots that I found a bit funny where the other Sea Devils, which don't have animatronic heads, their mouths just kind of hang open and just kind of flop open, which I found a bit funny. But it is a problem with the main Sea Devil, and yeah, it's just like I don't know why it looks like this. It almost looks like it's trying to pulsate more than it, because it pulsates a bit as well, and I think the problem is when it's trying to pulsate to make up for the lack of movement in the actual mouth. The Sea Devils in this though don't get very much screen time, and yeah, to be honest, it feels like putting the Sea Devils in this was almost a last minute sort of decision just to have a Doctor Who returning monster in this, because for the most part, like, it just feels a complete, like, interchangeable sort of villain. They don't, in fact, the Doctor even points out that they're not really acting like Sea Devils in this pretty much throughout. So yeah, there's never a real reason, given to that. 'Cause, I mean, the Sea Devils' plan is to basically make the entire world an ocean so they can reclaim it, kind of thing, which is, yeah, that is something that is in most Sea Devil slash Silurian stories, and I don't know, it might be. I think it would have been a bit more interesting if something else had been done with this, and it's also a historical set in China in the early 1900s. And apart from aesthetics, it could have been set at any point. Again, it just kind of feels like something like just in there. But I don't know. It just kind of feels like the story suddenly ended. The main story ended at like the 40-minute mark, and then it's just like, oh, I thought the story's wrapped up here, and it's like, no, there's another 10 minutes. So yeah, the main Sea Devil is killed off at around about 40-ish minutes in, but there's still another like 10 minutes left to go. And it's just like, okay, so didn't get very much screen time and didn't get much to go. The final confrontation between the main Sea Devil and the Doctor and co. is one of the worst shot fights I've ever seen. Because you just cannot tell what's happening half the time and where the characters are in in comparison to where everything else is. It's just not very well shot, to be honest. Throughout this, it just doesn't feel like it's particularly well shot. There's a load of cutting between everything and close-ups, but there are many long shots in this, and it's just literally, it feels like we're constantly close up on anything and then constantly cutting between everything, so it's hard to really see anything that's happening. So yeah, what could have possibly been a cool action scene is just neglected because it was shot so badly. So I'll say that on that regard. And in bits of it also, obvious green screening is obvious on the pirate ship. Yeah, it just looks too obviously green screened in the backdrops and that. So but yeah, let's get to the part about this episode, which is something that is the thing that I really wish this era wasn't doing, but it's doing it again. I didn't like it in the Tennant era. I don't like it here either. But it's the Doctor and Yaz's romantic subplot, which comes to fruition here, and oh god, here we go again. Like, why do we have to have in every single era, apart from the Capaldi era of the new series? How come we have to have companions throughout the new series? Because like, have a romantic interest in the Doctor. Nearly every single new series one has had it. We had it with Rose, we had it with Martha. We didn't have it with Donna, thankfully, but we had it briefly with Amy. And we had it briefly with Clara as well. And then it seemed to disappear for a bit, and then it came back with Yaz. It was like, oh god, not again. And I think the thing that makes it worse is that in this one, the Doctor literally says essentially that she is, romantically interested in Yaz. And it's just like, no. For me, the Doctor should be asexual and aromantic. Like, for me, it's like, because it just doesn't work. And they give all the reasons of, oh, well, we can't really be together because X and Y reasons, you'll die and that, and time goes on, blah, 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 kind of thing. It's just like 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes are really just dedicated to that. And it just feels like it's just kind of something there that is shoved in that is completely separate from the story itself. Like, we could have had an extra 10 minutes of Sea Devil story. We could have had an extra 10 minutes of that, but nah. We're not going to have that here. And yeah, there's also the jumping around in locations kind of thing, which again just feels like it's wasting time. Like, if you've only got a 50-minute episode, like, make the most of it. Like, I'd say in this episode, there's probably like a 20-minute half-decent episode, and then there's another 20 minutes of a kind of, a lugubrious bore. And then we've got a 10 minutes of for fuck's sake, come on. Like, I don't know. At this point, you know, I just don't care. Like, I had to set myself reminders in order to watch this episode. This is how little of a shit I gave about it. But, yeah. And in terms of the next time trailer, again, spoilers. So obviously, we've got the 13th Doctor's final story coming next, which sees the return of Tegan and Ace, and also Daleks and Cybermen and the Masker kind of thing. That you kind of expected, but yeah, and this just kind of feels like a thing of struggle. It's like, though, it's just like it's just gonna like be just like, yeah, Janet Fielding and Sophie Olga are just going to mop the floor with everyone else in that. So yeah, I feel like it's just like it feel like if you saw that teaser trailer, it just kind of feels like, okay, shove absolutely fucking everything into it, you know, to try and at least get someone to watch it. And this what this feels like. You know, it's like it's not even bad enough to be called bad. It's just painfully mediocre. You know, it's just a nothing kind of episode. There's just nothing about it to really talk about in terms of that. It's just hard to talk about because there's so little there. Like, you know, if I was Gordon Ramsay, you know, it's tasteless. It's got no substance to it. Yeah. Anyway, that's my quick thoughts on watching Doctor Who: Legend of the Sea Devils.